Picture this. The most powerful man in Europe, Napoleon Bonaparte, the conqueror who once made kings tremble, is now lying helpless in a dark room, far from his empire. His fingernails have turned blue, his belly is grotesquely swollen, and every breath rattles with pain. The mighty emperor who survived more than 60 battles now cannot even hold down a sip of water. Tonight, I will tell you the true story of Napoleon's final days. It is not the glorious tale found in history books. It is something much darker. His body dissolving from within, his mind breaking apart, while those around him watched in horror. This, my friend, was Napoleon's last and most terrifying battle, against death itself. By March of 1821, Napoleon's strength was fading fast. He could no longer walk without help. His only comfort came from hours in a steaming copper bathtub. Sometimes 6, even 8 hours at a time, with his skin turning red and raw. He gripped the edges with white knuckles, praying the scalding water would numb the fire in his stomach. This was no ordinary pain. A massive tumor had taken root inside him, a cancer eating him alive. Every heartbeat pressed against it. Every breath made it throb. The emperor who once marched across Europe now spent his days trying to boil the pain away. By April, his servants began to whisper. Napoleon's once powerful arms had withered to bone. You could wrap your fingers around his biceps. Yet his belly was swollen grotesquely, filled with fluid. He looked like a skeleton carrying a balloon. The smell in his chamber grew unbearable, not just sickness, but the stench of rotting flesh, because his tumor was literally dying inside him. Sulfur and incense burned in the corners of the room, but nothing could hide the sickly sweet smell of death. The emperor who once bent Europe to his will was now reduced to something his own men could barely recognize. His doctors tried to cure him, but their methods were worse than the disease. They gave him mercury chloride, a poison. They strapped blistering plasters to his chest and legs, burning his skin until it oozed. They forced enemas so violent that the proud emperor screamed, not from pain alone, but from humiliation. What came out of him was black, tar-like waste mixed with pieces of his own stomach lining. His body was falling apart, cell by cell. The man who once ruled from Madrid to Moscow was being destroyed, not by bullets or cannon fire, but by cancer and cruel medicine. Then his brilliant mind began to slip. One moment, he was dying in bed. The next, he was back at Austerlitz, shouting orders, moving phantom armies with trembling hands. His voice filled the chamber with commands to soldiers who had been dead for decades. Sometimes he called out for Josephine. Other times he begged for water in the desert of Egypt. His servants wept as they held him down, for men restraining an emperor who thought he was still leading his guard into battle. His body was broken, but in his mind, Napoleon was still a commander, still fighting a war only he could see. May arrived, and with it, the end. Napoleon vomited blood and chunks of his stomach. His eyes turned red as vessels burst. His throat swelled shut until he could only make guttural, animal-like sounds. 16 people crowded into his bedroom, not as soldiers, but as mourners, watching him fade hour by hour. Some heard him whisper, "France. Army. Josephine," others swore his last words were, "head of the army." Perhaps he was speaking to all of them, or perhaps to no one at all. At 5:49 in the evening, after 17 hours of final agony, Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of France, Master of Europe, breathed his last. The autopsy revealed horrors too great for most to watch. His stomach was almost entirely consumed by cancer, a hole large enough to push a finger through. His intestines were covered in white cancer nodules. Yet when his body was exhumed 19 years later, something strange was found. Napoleon was perfectly preserved, his uniform intact, his face still recognizable, as if he had been buried only yesterday. Some say it was arsenic in his system. Others believe in secret embalming. To this day, his perfect preservation remains a mystery. But one truth is clear. The conqueror who once ruled nations could not conquer death. His empire fell, his body rotted, and in his final moments, Napoleon discovered what comes for us all. In the end, even emperors die alone. Even emperors die badly. Good night.